What should I do if I have a 50-year pregnancy due to an epidemic and encounter an old woman who values boys over girls? Fortunately, I have a personal space. I finally grew up with my grandmother, but because of my grandmother and the job quota I just obtained, my biological mother secretly applied to go to the countryside. What should I do? Then accept the reality and roll up the burden one by one, living in a youth academy, each with their own thoughts. They only seek comfort to live their lives. When they return to the city for the college entrance examination, why is it so difficult? Getting married is always a good idea. Who will she marry? By the way, which comrade Gu is good at living in the same yard? Since going to the countryside, the other party has been taking good care of him. It's him. I just didn't expect that after finally moving out of the educated youth academy to live my own little life. What should I do if that cheap younger sister comes? Cold salad. Chapter 1. After wearing 50. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In 2019, a sudden outbreak of the epidemic disrupted people's normal lives. I, Li Xiaowan, am an unmarried elderly leftover woman at the age of 32. I currently have parents and a brother working alone in a small third-tier city. But no one expected that this young woman's final cause of death was due to being infected with the epidemic. What are these things? Okay, how could this be like this? It's already winter in 2022, and it's only a few days until 2023. Isn't the country relaxing its epidemic control measures? What is it that most people do not die after being infected? Even after infection, is it more severe than a common cold? And even if there are deaths, aren't they all caused by the underlying disease or aging? Why is it that I am less than 32 years old this year? I died early because of this disease. What the hell is it? But what surprised me even more was that when I passed away young, shouldn't I go see the king of hell? How could it be that the tire was worn properly, and it was still worn in the 1950s? What's all this about? As a rural girl born in the 1990s, she knows how difficult the countryside was in the 1990s. I still know that this has been brought forward by several decades, which is because I feel that my good life is too comfortable, right? So do you want to feel the hardships of the past? Not to mention anything else, my parents are all born in the 1960s, and they are not clear about things from the 1950s either. Although Grandpa and Grandpa have said it, they only listened to stories at that time. Who would have thought that this time came suddenly, and heaven couldn't bear to see their own good days? As for how I knew it now, it's 50 years old, not just a few months old when I heard it in my pregnant mother's womb. Tomorrow is the first anniversary celebration of the founding of the People's Republic of China. Are you going, Sister Wu? Xiao Lu. Do you think Sister can go like this now? I really want to go see the anniversary celebration, but it's a big belly and inconvenient with too many people. Let's forget it. Wu Jie, that's really a pity. What's so unfortunate about this? Isn't there still a chance in the future? Now that our common people have all had good days, the Japanese have long been driven back to their hometown in Dongyang. Didn't anyone go to the small island across from them? From now on, we ordinary people can finally live a peaceful life. It's not a big problem to go and watch the military parade at that time. You can go and watch it anytime. By the way, Sister Wu, are you having a boy or a girl? I hope it's a boy. As you know, there are still too few children in my sister's family, so having multiple sons can help each other, right? Besides, having more sons can also help each other. My daughter is also pretty good. But sooner or later, the daughters will belong to someone else. After getting married, how much help can we do for our parents? Let's forget about it. Son is the best. Not only will we marry someone into our family, but we can also import them for ding. If our son has an extra waist, he will also be tough. What's really going on? It's still up to him to use it. Wu Jie's words are right, it's better to be a son. After hearing these things, I finally know what time it is now and can even think of a specific date. It's September 30th, 50 years ago, isn't that too coincidental? My mother, what's the situation? How did I come to this time in the blink of an eye? Not to mention, the next few years will be the most difficult. Another thing is that in a few more years, it will be the most dangerous decade, and finally the reform and opening up. How can we live the first 20 years? And, the most important thing, say it 3 times. Just now, from their conversation, I heard that this cheap mother values boys over girls very much. What's the situation? Also, I don't know to what extent this idea has reached, and in this era, she is not the only one who has such thoughts. Don't let a father who values sons over daughters stand out, then how can we deal with these days? Although I was born in the 1990s, even though I was still born in the countryside. Although my parents may have a preference for boys over girls, it doesn't weigh too much either. Not to mention that your education is not less important than your younger brother's, and as long as you can continue to study, your parents can say that they can smash the pot and sell iron for you. However, if you don't study, it's your problem. The most crucial thing is that the money earned after work is in one's own hands, and parents won't want it. But at that time, the parents also explained that all the property in the family belonged to your younger brother. To be honest, although I felt a bit uncomfortable at the time, almost every household in the countryside was like this. After thinking about it, it didn't matter. Besides, the cost of studying alone is on par with that of my younger brother, with the only difference being that he has to pass on the family line. What should we do? What should we do? What should we do? Yes. 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 I still have one more space, by the way, what about space? It's okay, it's still there. This space was not long after the outbreak of the pandemic in 2019, and I was quarantined at home. While cooking, I accidentally cut my finger and blood dripped onto the bracelet. This bracelet is not a high-end item, but an ordinary one that cost less than 200 yuan. There is a heart-shaped decoration on it that looks good, so I bought it. When I bought it, I just thought it looked good and didn't care how much it cost. Isn't that why I bought it? Just didn't pay attention at the time, and when I couldn't find the bracelet anymore, I accidentally entered the space. At first, I thought I was kidnapped. But I am clearly at home. How could anyone dare to engage in kidnapping? I just thought about whether I could go out, and then miraculously appeared at home. After trying several times, I finally found out that this was the space commonly mentioned in novels. Is anyone there? Excuse me, I don't know if anyone is there. After shouting several times without answering, I confidently strolled around the yard. Is there no way? I'm really curious about what the space depicted in the novel looks like. Today, I can finally see it. I need to take a good stroll. I saw that this space is a small courtyard, about 240 square meters, which is about the same area as the courtyard where I used to live in my hometown. There are several rooms in the yard, and the rest are open spaces. There is a well not far from the house, a toilet to the southwest of the yard, and a gate to the southeast corner. Is anyone there? Is anyone at home? I asked a few more questions without any peace of mind, but no one answered. Now I don't care, but I have said hello several times and no one is there. That's not polite. Pushing open the door of the main house, you can see the living room and a set of antique furniture lined inside. There is a door outside the room on the east side. Pushing it open, there are 2 large stoves in the southeast corner, and next to it is a water tank. Near the north wall is a large kitchen cabinet that is 2 meters high. Near the middle wall, there is a table lined with cutting boards and other utensils. There is also a stool below the table. I walked in and opened the cabinet to take a look. There were jars of all sizes inside, but there was nothing inside. Next, there was a compartment inside, so I pushed open the door and entered the interior. There was nothing inside, so this should be a kitchen with a warehouse. How come there's nothing else? I walked out of the kitchen and came to the opposite room, which is located on the west side outside. Similarly, when you open the door and see a desk and a bookshelf placed inside, with some thread-bound books on top of the bookshelf, it indicates that this is a study. I didn't rush over to look through the things in the study, but opened the door inside. There was a bed, a wardrobe, and a table, and I understood that it was a bedroom. However, seeing that the room was not dark, I remembered that there was a small window on the north wall near the inside of both rooms, which was used for ventilation and lighting. After wandering around in the space, I didn't notice it, so I went to the study and searched everywhere until I saw a letter under the bookshelf. When you open it, it shows traditional Chinese characters. There are many characters that you don't recognize, so you can use your phone to search for them. It's not like before, you can search for everything with your phone. So, hurry up and get out. Understanding the origin of this space is the most important thing. No matter what time it is now, just sit there and check word by word. After checking, you will also understand the letter written by this guy. The letter says, "This space is called Xiaojia space. Consciously, this courtyard is originally a home, and yes, no matter what era, having a house means having your own home. When I first recognize you, the small home space is yours. Everything inside can be used, and the kitchen and warehouse can be kept fresh, insulated, and refrigerated, that is to say, what you put in, what you take out, this is good, this is good, this is good. The books in the study room can be read, but they cannot be damaged, and they are always spiritual nourishment. Poultry can be grown or raised in the yard, both without summer or winter. That is to say, all 4 seasons have the same temperature, isn't it like spring all year round? Sigh. That's great too. Don't worry about it being too hot in summer, and don't worry about it being too cold in winter. It can be said that you have achieved your wish. The water in the well is sweet, not only can it strengthen the body and increase strength, but it cannot remove various diseases, beauty in beauty. What kind of situation is this? I can understand the concept of strengthening the body and increasing strength. What kind of ghost is this? Everything in space can be controlled by consciousness. That means you don't have to plant it yourself anymore, God help me. Or do you have to buy some small planters or something, or do you have to plant little by little? When the hell will you be busy? After reading the letter, it took a long time to realize that the appearance of space indicates the seriousness of the matter, whether it is the end of the world or the need to travel through it. After figuring it out, we need to hurry up and buy things, but now everyone is under quarantine at home. Not to mention going shopping, we are not allowed to go out even in the community. What should we do? By the way, you can buy it online. However, if you buy online now, you won't be able to get the package within 3 to 5 days. Anyway, let's place an order online now. Otherwise, if I go to the supermarket to buy, I'm afraid I won't be able to grab it. The person in the letter just now said that both the space kitchen and warehouse can be kept fresh. That means it can be stored for a long time without breaking down, so rest assured. From the appearance of the space until his death, he gradually bought a lot of supplies in the space. Like rice, flour, grains, oil, etc. Seasonings. Sauce, vinegar, salt and other seasonings. Clothes, cleaning and hygiene products. Toothbrushes, toothpaste, mouthwash cups, tissues, towels, soap, wash basins, shampoo, shower gel, towels, hair dryers, slippers, clothes hangers, etc. Emergency tools. Including flashlights, multifunctional knives, and even drinking water, I have prepared some. But I am also worried that one day I may travel back to ancient times or difficult times. At least you need to place an order online to buy some life items with a sense of time. Chapter 2. Fortunately, there is a space. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Anyway, whatever looks good, sell whatever you need. I'm afraid there won't be a place to put the things, so I went to buy shelves that are neatly arranged. I'm afraid there won't be enough to buy and there won't be a place to put them. With this arrangement, at least 1/3 of the supplies can be stored. Nowadays, there are many grains in the warehouse, such as rice, white flour, millet, corn flour, corn residue, sweet potato flour, sorghum flour, and buckwheat flour. These were all bought by myself online or in the supermarket. It can be said that I took advantage of the epidemic prevention and control measures to go to work. Every day after work, I either go to pick up express delivery or go shopping in the supermarket. During this period, I stocked up 500 kilograms of grain each. I also bought some other coarse grains, such as red beans, mung beans, soybeans, black beans, broad beans, peas, black rice, sorghum rice, buckwheat, red rice, noodles, glutinous rice and glutinous rice flour. Don't be fooled by the abundance of grain, but if we really count it down, there isn't much left. But how much can we offend in such a large place? It would be great if you could save some. I bought some chicken, duck, meat, and eggs, but didn't buy too much because although space are limited, at least eggs, duck eggs, and goose eggs can be self-sufficient. Pork itself loves to eat lean meat the most, but in ancient times or difficult times, pork belly is still the most popular, and the most important thing is that it can be refined, so every time I go to the supermarket, I buy 5 pounds each. In nearly 3 years, there are about 1,000 pounds of meat in the space, as well as some pork ribs and big bones, but these are not included. There are also some beef and mutton, each weighing around 100 pounds. I didn't buy much, and because in this special period, everything in his mother is expensive and the price is surprisingly high. I am also afraid of these things, so putting them on the shelf like this can easily cause odor. I even bought a lot of storage boxes, which can hold meat, empty them when they arrive, eggs, or other things. Another thing is that they are so organized that they can hold more things without being messy. Oil, salt, soy sauce, and vinegar are all bought in barrels or boxes, and all kinds of seasonings are priced at 5 pounds each. I also bought a lot of sugar, such as 50 pounds each for brown sugar and white sugar, 20 pounds for chocolate sugar, 30 pounds for various flavors of rabbit milk sugar, 40 pounds for rock sugar, and 10 pounds each for fruit sugar, gummy, purple sugar, ginger sugar, and maltose. Although I don't buy many seasonings, in my opinion, seasoning is not as important as sugar. Sugar can replenish energy in sugar at any time, soothe the mood. Brown sugar is warm and sweet in nature, and enters the spleen meridian, helping to nourish qi and blood, strengthen the spleen and warm the stomach, promote blood circulation and relieve pain. White sugar has a mild nature and a sweet taste. It has the effects of moistening the lungs and generating fluids, relieving cough and phlegm, while rock sugar has the effects of tonifying the middle and benefiting qi, nourishing yin and generating fluids. It can be said that sometimes an inconspicuous candy can be used to save lives. Seasoning only adds flavor when cooking, and some seasonings can be used as traditional Chinese medicine. I'm sorry that I'm not a student of traditional Chinese medicine and I'm not very familiar with this, but anyway, I have prepared some and put them there. There are also some fruits, such as apples, peaches, cherries, grapes, strawberries, and blueberries, all of which are planted in the space. Without buying more, I bought 1 box each. Although I don't really like to eat other fruits, I don't plan to plant them in the space. So I bought some, such as oranges, kumquats, lemons, grapefruits, wendan, grapefruits, cherries, dates, longans, lychees, peaches, chestnuts, bananas, dragon fruit, loquats, virgin fruit, and kiwi fruit. I also bought about 10 pounds to some extent, without buying too much. However, there are around 20 watermelons in the warehouse, which are delicious and can also be grown in the space. However, there are many varieties of watermelons that need to be specially prepared. I have also prepared some household medicines in the warehouse, but there is no way. I can either prepare less or not prepare everything, but this thing really cannot be lacking. Maybe it will be needed at some time, it is a life-saving thing. I also bought some grain seeds and vegetable seeds, and they will be planted in the open space outside. Although it's just such a palm-sized open space, it still needs to be used no matter what. We can't waste it there. On the 2 stoves in the kitchen were 20 big steamers, filled with mantu, steamed buns, steamed rolls, and mantu made by myself. There are also several shelves in the kitchen, on which there are pots of meat and vegetables prepared in advance, such as braised pork belly, braised fish, sweet and sour ribs, etc. There is also my favorite Sichuan pepper chicken, which I can't make by myself. I took a 5-pound rooster to the restaurant and specially processed a total of 80 servings. In addition to these, there are boiled eggs, various congee, chicken soup, boiled big bone soup, mutton soup, and even dumplings, which are packed with various fillings and put on the shelf to cover the curtains of the basin. It can be said that all available places have been used. There's nothing I can do. I don't have much money in my hand, and I can only do it myself. I try not to go out and buy, and I don't care about the appearance or taste. As long as I don't starve to death after eating, I can do whatever I want. Also, there are different sizes of blankets in the bedroom, can't we? This also needs to be prepared. Who knows when they wake up, they don't know which corner to stay in. If not, what if they freeze to death? In the bedroom, there are 2 beds each with a size of 2.2 by 2.4 meters, 2 beds each with a size of 10 pounds, 2 beds each with a size of 2 by 1.8 meters, 2 beds each with a size of 8 pounds, and 2 beds each with a size of 2 by 1.5 meters. And a set of 4 pieces of the same size, with separate sheets and other items placed in equal quantities. In addition, I also bought 200 kilograms of cotton and various types of fabrics, such as checkered, military green, earthy yellow, pure white, and so on. Although I don't know how to make clothes, I feel at ease when I buy them. If I don't know how to make clothes, I can learn slowly. There are also shoes that are commonly worn, such as rebound shoes, cloth shoes, cotton jackets, release shoes, rain boots, and rubber shoes. There are 10 pairs of shoes in several sizes. In the end, I didn't even know what I was thinking. I even bought 6 pairs of shoes for children of all ages, from childhood to adulthood. It's really unbelievable. Even cotton jackets have been prepared quite a bit. Not only adults, but also some children. It can be said that people of all ages have prepared 2 sets of thick and thin colors, but none of them are bright colors, but they are dirt-resistant black. There's no way. Too flashy, sometimes it's just a disaster, it's better to keep a low profile. In the end, even the living room was not spared, and the entire set of furniture was filled with toilet paper, sanitary napkins, and toiletries placed in boxes. And other open spaces are lined with shelves, on which various pots and cans are placed, even the smallest needle is neatly arranged on the shelves. Is there no way? I really don't know if something is missing by then, it won't be useful. Isn't this a case of catching the eye? Prepare as many as possible. It's better than risking going out and borrowing one day. On the bookshelves and tables in the study, there are piles of study tools such as notebooks and pens that can be used in different periods. I don't know if I will use it later, so I still bought some. Besides these, I bought a lot of U-bubbles and saved a lot of novels inside. Download TV movies, as well as courses that can be downloaded for free online now. Whether useful or not, save them for now. That sentence won't be used when the time comes. The entire space is 240 square meters, 12.96 meters wide, and approximately 18.52 meters long, except for the room occupying an area of 87 square meters. A rudimentary bathroom has been built next to the toilet in the southwest corner. I don't know if it can be used, but let's build it first. What if it's useful? I took a shower and headed east until the east wall surrounded a 3-meter wide chicken coop. Is there no way? The open space is too small, we need to plan it carefully. Reserve a road with a width of 0.5 meters, which will take up 45.36 square meters. And 4 fruit trees were planted inside the chicken coop, namely an apple tree, a peach tree, a cherry tree, and a jujube tree. Similarly, leaving a space of 3.5 meters near the room is 45.36 square meters. A grape trellis was erected near the west wall, and a summer black grape was planted. A table was set up below, with a hand-cranked small grinding stone placed on it. A neat row of agricultural tools was placed near the corner of the west wall, fearing that I wouldn't be able to repair them, so I even bought a double. Is there no way? This cannot be omitted. Otherwise, we'll have to dig with our hands. On the opposite side near the east wall, there is a 3-meter-long trapezoidal shelf with pots of strawberries arranged on top. Several blueberry trees were planted in front of the kitchen window. The remaining open space is approximately 62.28 square meters, less than a fraction of the land. It is planned to leave a 0.5-meter wide road in the middle, with grain growing to the west and vegetables growing to the east. I quite like to eat tomatoes, whether they are big or small, so I plan to have a variety. I can also plant some fruits like watermelons to climb seedlings. After all, there won't be many fruits to eat in the future. I raised 10 more chickens in the chicken coop, including 1 rooster. We also raised 2 mother ducks and 2 mother geese each, just to make it more convenient to eat. Looking at the space filled with supplies and thinking about the current situation, I don't know whether to cry or laugh. Who would have thought that they were about to become a post-.50s generation, and fortunately, they happened to have a mother who had a preference for boys over girls. But when I think about it, at least I have a space to be by my side. How can I survive in this difficult era? The only thing I can do now is to absorb the nutrients from my mother well, but in this era, there are no good nutritional supplements. Alas, it's sad. I don't always wake up at a certain time, but through these few months, I still understand some things in this family now. Li's father, Li Changhe, is 23 years old this year. Li's mother, Wu Huifang, is 22 years old this year. Big brother Li Xingyang is 3 years old this year. Sister Li Xiaoxia is 2 years old this year. My second brother Li Xinghuai is 1 year old this year. I learned from the conversation with my family that I also have an uncle, but I heard that he died at the hands of the Japanese. There is a third uncle named Li Changxi, who is 20 years old this year. However, he heard that he has joined the army and is currently not at home. Grandmother Li Chao is 45 years old and lives with a family of 6. Chapter 3. Birth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When listening to Cheap Mom chatting with others, she mentioned that her yard currently has about half an acre of land, which was passed down from her ancestors. There are 5 main rooms, with a kitchen and firewood room to the east, 2 side rooms to the west, and 3 upside-down rooms. The southwest corner has a toilet and a bathroom. This house is not bad. Even if the third uncle comes back to marry and get married in the future, not to mention 10 or 8 years, he can stay for at least 5 years. Both parents and their children work at Qinghe Woolen Factory. In this era, having 2 people working in the factory is very impressive. And the distance between my home and the factory is not far, so it only takes about half an hour to walk. This geographical location is not bad. Even if there is something at home that can happen in a blink of an eye, it's too convenient. This means that based on the current time, this place is not far from Beijing, about 50 miles away. That means if this house were to be placed in future generations, it would be worth a lot of money. Just thinking about it makes me excited, but now that I am still in the mother's womb, even if I grow up after birth, it doesn't matter. In a blink of an eye, I have been in my cheap mother's belly for more than 8 months. Now I can fully understand the situation at home. It can be said that I am not wealthy, but it would be good if I could fill my stomach. That can also be considered as a wealthy family, not to mention the fact that the country is currently facing the most difficult times, and being able to eat enough is very good. But what I never expected was that I was born early, in other words, prematurely. Speaking of which, at just 9 months old, because Cheap's mother was in a hurry to go out to work in the morning, she happened to be hit by Cheap's big brotherly Xingyang. Cheap's mother was not on guard for a while and tripped on the steps, which meant she had to be born early. But it wasn't originally a full-term delivery, and due to an incorrect fetal position, the Cheap mother gave birth for 2 days and a night before giving birth to herself. I don't know what's going on, but since I was born, my Cheap mother has never looked at me very seriously except for breastfeeding. And while she was drinking milk, she was still whispering softly. Dead girl movie, if it weren't for you, could I suffer such a big deal? Why don't you just be a kid? If I suffer, I will suffer. At least when I get old, I will still have a son to show filial piety. What's the use of this girl movie? Not really, what she meant by this was blaming herself. She shouldn't have thought it was because her older brother Li Xingyang hit her that she started early. How can I look back now and complain about this child who was born just a few days ago? How can I be so wronged by myself? Is it because the fetal position was not right in her belly, which made her suffer for 2 days and 1 night, that she resented her daughter, so much so that she never liked her again and never avoided scolding her as she wanted? Is it right? If there were other people in the family, would she want to fight? What a fucking logic. Who will be wronged by my mother? Also, if it weren't for Grandma hearing her crying every time, changing her urine ring, or only hugging her when she was hungry, I'm afraid she wouldn't even remember giving birth to a daughter like herself. Oh my goodness. How could I just stall such a cheap one myself, Mom? I originally planned to be a good girl in front of her. But for now, this cheap mother who only takes care of herself during the postpartum period, let's forget it. With such a cheap mother, it's better to keep an extra eye on herself. Otherwise, I don't know how the days ahead will be. And as long as she doesn't cry, she never thinks of breastfeeding her daughter or changing her diaper ring, so every time she gets hungry or pees, she cries with all her might, regardless of anything else. Otherwise, she will become the only one in the army to starve to death while swaddling. Every time I hear myself crying there, my grandmother will curse and say something cheap, Mom. You wouldn't have picked her up and fed her a mouthful of milk on your own, or you're missing arms and legs, and I don't know what you think. The child is yours, and you wouldn't even believe in giving her a straight eye. Be careful that she won't recognize you as a mother in the future. Oh my, she dares not recognize me as a mother. How much pain and suffering did I suffer when I gave birth to her? If she dares not recognize me as a mother, I will see if I don't peel her skin when the time comes. The old lady sees that you don't need to do it in the future. You can do it now, but it's still in the future. Wu Huifang was so angry that she didn't want to speak and didn't want to be charged with contradicting her mother. In law, so she shut up and didn't speak. But it's still the same as before, I don't take the initiative to breastfeed or change my diaper ring. Every time, I have to cry and provoke my grandmother to come over, saying that she will only breastfeed me immediately. As for changing my diaper, my grandmother has always been busy there. After spending a month together like this, cheap Dad Li Changhe couldn't bear the crying and noise of his child at night. No matter whether the child cries like this during the day or not, we can't let her cry like this anymore at night. Working during the day is tiring enough, and she's crying at night. How can we rest? Although Cheap Mom is quite capable, she is still a bit afraid of Cheap Dad, so in the next 6 months, she will at least take the initiative to breastfeed and change her diaper at night. But I never expected that she would secretly pinch me during the day when there was no one around, causing me to cry in pain and attract my grandmother with cries. Isn't this child just finished breastfeeding? He just changed his diaper. What's going on? Wu Huifang, the cheap mother, said, I don't know. Grandma, after all, has been living with her for several years. As soon as she heard this, she knew the problem was with her and said, My child will hold me inside and watch. It's time for you to give birth now and go back to work. Feed her before leaving in the morning, and then feed her again after work at noon. The middle meal of feeding her rice soup will not delay your work. The same arrangement will be made in the afternoon. As for the child at night, you will still take care of it. After all, the old lady is also old and cannot get up a few times every night to pick her up and feed you. Okay, the cheap mom didn't know what she thought, so she agreed. It wasn't until my grandmother carried me back to her room that she realized. Here's another trick for me. When the big girl was full moon, she was like this, secretly pinching the child. Isn't it because she despises being a girl? Why don't we keep our son in front of us so we can kiss her? Putting it in the old lady's house to raise, she was afraid that her own son would kiss someone else, and she didn't even think about how the old lady's biological grandson could still provide for her son improperly at that time. It turns out that cheap mom not only pinched her newborn child, but also pinched cheap sisterly Xiaoxia. Sigh. I was born in March of the 51st year, and the weather in the north gradually warmed up. When my cheap father registered his child's household, he gave him a name, Li Xianwan. From then on, we are also a person with a name and status. After observing for a period of time, I found that my cheap father is quite good. Although he doesn't care much about family matters, he doesn't hit his child easily. And most importantly, he won't beat and scold his elder sister Xiaoxia for no reason. I can finally feel more at ease, but as for others, I still need to take a closer look. Although born 1 month early, my body is still considered healthy and I am not particularly weak due to premature birth, nor am I prone to getting sick easily. The most crucial thing is that my grandmother takes care of me very carefully, so at 6 months old, she is no different from the full-term child born next door. This is why I heard Grandma Chow and Grandma in the neighboring yard chatting with others there. Aunt Li, how did you raise your child? These 2 girls are considered the first in our territory. Look at how chubby she is. Yeah. Aunt Li, you have to speak up carefully. Then I'll have to raise the child according to your method. Look at how likable this girl is. What are you saying? It's not because this child was born prematurely, and the feeding was more refined. Everything else is no different from other family-raised children. Aunt Li, this second girl from your family is better raised than the child from the old Lu family in the alley ahead. That child doesn't look as strong as the second girl yet. She's slimming down. What did Aunt Chow say? The Zhou family is not like a family with hungry children. Grandma Qian, who was sitting beside, asked, this morning when I went to buy groceries, I happened to see the third wife of the Zhou family crying with her child in her arms. Seeing the child in her arms, it's not as good as the second girl's care. What's going on? If I remember correctly, their child was born on a certain day. How could it be even worse than this premature girl's care? Did something happen in between? It's something that our old neighbors don't know. This matter is not to be blamed on Mrs. Zhou and her third and second daughter.in.law. Mrs. Zhou dislikes that all the children born to the third family are maids, so she doesn't pay much attention to taking care of them. It's not because the third wife of the Zhou family can't stand up on their own, just like an old ox, they know to work hard and don't care about their children at all. Also, the eldest daughter of the third family is already 7 years old and can take care of her younger siblings. However, the third wife is unable to stand up, which is not enough for the newly born fourth daughter. Yes, Mrs. Zhou's 4 sons and 2 daughters have all been married, and her sons have also become married. Not to mention, the third generation of the Zhou family are all maids, while the rest are sons. Can't we treat our children unfairly? Grandma said, that's what you're thinking. Who wouldn't know that your daughter was raised for someone else to play with? Grandma heard Grandma Qian's words and said, it's getting late. We need to go back and cook. The second wife and I will come back from work to eat later. It's really getting late, come back. It's really true that the sun is so high. We need to hurry back and cook, otherwise we'll delay coming back from work to eat. This is a big deal. I just listened to a gossip about the Zhou family, and there was nothing I could do about it. If we didn't talk about the Zhou family, we could just talk about our own family. Isn't there also a cheap mother who values boys over girls? What should I do if I am worried about my future life? There's no time to meddle in other people's affairs. Besides, even if it's related, I can't control it. A baby doll can't say anything without saying anything else. No matter what, it's better to take care of yourself. Since Cheap Mom went to work, she was carried into her house by her grandmother during the day. Cheap Mom thought she didn't have her own daughter, and if it weren't for drinking milk from time to time, she really felt it was possible. Chapter 4. Being able to speak and walk. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Not to mention never asking grandma whether the child had a good meal or slept well. And most importantly, at the age of 6 months, Cheap Mom gave up her milk unilaterally. And she also said to her grandmother, the children above used to drink milk for only 2 or 3 months before, but when they became pregnant, they ran out of milk. She has been drinking enough milk for several more months now, and there is no need to drink it anymore. There are only 2 sons at home now, which is still too few. I plan to have a few more. Upon hearing her words, everyone felt exhausted for her, but she didn't have the determination. This is an era where people believe that having more sons is better, even if they can't afford it or have no food to eat, they won't give up the idea of having children. The most crucial thing is that my grandmother has always been in charge of my family. I don't have to cook or wash clothes, just focus on giving birth, and let go of everything else. It's really easy, but can I give birth without putting in too much effort? This matter has nothing to do with oneself, nor does it have anything to do with oneself. Now it's just a child either eating or sleeping every day, or playing there by oneself. Everything else can be ignored. Although grandma doesn't have to go out to work, it's frustrating that she's also quite busy, not only taking care of household chores, but also taking care of children. Not to mention myself as a minor, let's just say that there are currently 3 other children at home. These 3 children are not at home until dinner, which means they cannot go out to play when sleeping at home at night. Otherwise, they will not stay at home honestly. Just because she is not at home all day and goes out every day, the clothes she wears on her body are dirty, which leads to her grandmother having endless laundry every day. Another thing is that my grandmother has to cook and tidy up all the work inside and outside the house. It can be said that she never stops for a day. Otherwise, whether it's adults or a few children at home, their clothes will be clean. Now the eldest brother Li Xingyang is 4 years old, the elder sister Li Xiaoxia is 3 years old, and the second brother Li Xinghuai is 2 years old. They don't sleep with their grandmother, but all sleep with their cheap parents. Although there are enough rooms at home, who makes them small? My grandmother said that besides my elder sister Li Xiaoxia, we slept with her until the age of 2. The other 2 brothers were both taken care of by cheap mothers themselves, and it cannot be said that during the day, it was grandma who took care of them, and at night, it was cheap mothers who took care of them. Grandma also said, "Cheap Mom, I'm afraid my 2 children will kiss her, this old lady. If I don't kiss her, I'll kiss whoever I sleep with. Even if my son marries his wife in the future, I won't forget her." When I heard this, I didn't know how to react. The biggest concern now is not knowing if I can still stay with my grandmother until the age of 2. I really don't want to be with my cheap mother. Even though my grandmother is here now, sometimes the cheap old lady rolls her eyes at me whenever she sees me, and I really don't know how to get along with her. Another thing is that from birth to now, besides his 2 sons at home, cheap dad would occasionally ask a few questions. His older sister and I never ask, and as long as he doesn't starve his 2 daughters, he doesn't seem to care much. I don't know if the old men are so big-hearted, or what's going on. Can't they understand? As for cheap mom, she only cares about her son. As for big sister, she instructs her to take good care of second brother every day. Whenever there is a little bit of disdain for second brother, big sister will be beaten up, not with her hands or wooden sticks, but with her hands pinching big sister's thighs. This is something she accidentally saw. As for my little daughter, she has never been asked a word before, which means she doesn't have this daughter. However, no matter what, there are also grandmothers who are very kind to themselves. They are always obedient in front of their grandmothers, not crawling around, only sitting there obediently, not crying or making noise. When I am approaching 11 months old and can speak, the first person to call is Grandma. When I heard the first thing I would say was my grandmother, she was very happy and only said, "Oh, it's really that the old lady didn't raise you in vain. You really deserve to be the old lady's obedient grandson." Grandma, hey. You're such a good baby, you're so good. What I didn't expect was that after being able to speak, Cheap Dad didn't say anything, but Cheap Mom was so angry that she couldn't eat. As for my older brothers and sisters, at first they wanted to tease me, but when I saw my Cheap Mother getting angry, I didn't dare to come to me. Not only now, but also since birth, my older brothers and sisters don't come close to me to play, let alone take care of me. But there's nothing to care about either. Since birth, I haven't had much interaction with them in my daily life. How could I care about their feelings? Anyway, with my grandmother at home, everything else is just floating clouds. Just live your own life well. As for cheap moms, there's no need to worry about them. Who hasn't cared about them since birth, or even said a word and never taught themselves to call them mom? Whether it's talking or doing something, a baby needs to be taught by adults, right? Oh. She just thought that picking up ready-made ones wouldn't be so good, and others wouldn't care, but it just wouldn't work for her. Grandma turned around and left when she saw Cheap's mother angry. Isn't the second wife talking about your daughter? Law. Since the birth of the warm-hearted girl, besides breastfeeding the child, she has also said a word to the child. After giving birth to Xiaoxia for the first time, she wasn't like this either. Every time she finished breastfeeding, she would still hold the child and play with it. But if you look at how she treats this child again, do you think she's a stepmother if you don't know? After feeding her, not to mention teasing the child, they either just put it aside or send it back to the old lady's house. Do those who don't know think this is a child raised for the old lady? Mother, when I come back, my son will talk about her. Let's just say it or not. Since she doesn't want to take care of her, let's keep the warm girl in my house. But ugly things can be said at the forefront. In the future, no matter how many children you have, whether it's male or female, your wife will have to take care of them herself. The old lady won't take care of them, just bring you a warm girl, you know, mother, don't worry. If Shaun Wan is in your room, you will spend more dim sum. To be honest, if it weren't for your daughter, the granddaughter of the old lady, using such a long timeline to take care of her children. Take a look at us, from beginning to end, aren't we all mothers taking care of our own children? That is to say, when I am usually too busy to start, my mother-in-law only gives me a hand to take care of the children, but who keeps them indoors? My old lady still feels sorry for her. She works during the day, and can she rest well when she comes back at night? I plan to help her take care of the big boy, but she doesn't appreciate it. I still feel that my mother is competing with her for her son, and I am always on guard against this old lady. She is not the main palace lady, but her own grandson. Can she harm her son? I don't know how much brain she has, she's just a pig's brain, unable to figure out anything. After giving birth to Miss Xia, you did this trick to the old lady again. You don't know that when Xiaoxia was pinched and bruised, if the old lady hadn't watched her give birth, she would have thought it was the stepmother who came in to treat the child left behind by the front lady. I thought my mother thought she just didn't like Miss Xia, but I never thought she didn't even like Miss Nguyen. She only has a son in her heart, but no daughter. Why didn't she think that she was also a daughter? Did her in-laws treat her in the same way when she was in her mother's family? The old lady doesn't care if you are not, but what the old lady wants to say is that in the future, no matter how many daughters she gives birth to, the old lady won't bring her any more. Anyway, the children are the flesh that falls from her body, and she won't care about anything she does. As for whether her daughter will hold a grudge against her in the future, it's her business. The old lady finally understood. As long as her son didn't want a daughter, she had better pray not to have another daughter in the future. Otherwise, after giving birth to a girl, she would quickly strangle her, or grow up with her and not be tortured to death by her. As for what you think, you can decide for yourself. Mother, my son knows now and will definitely not let her treat him like this again in the future. Alright, go back to the house. I really didn't expect cheap mom to be so ruthless. She's clearly having a psychological problem. Fortunately, I was clever at the time and cried hard, otherwise I wouldn't have died of pain. But there is also one happy thing, which is that I will stay in my grandmother's house until I grow up to 6 or 7 years old and sleep in separate rooms. It's really great. Ha ha ha, little girl, what are you happy about? You're so happy. Speak up and tell Grandma, Grandma is also so happy. Milk milk, where is Grandma? On March 16, 52, when I turned 1 year old, my grandmother secretly gave me a fried egg to eat in the morning, saying it was a birthday celebration. Now the weather is warm and the thick clothes have been changed. After breakfast, I slowly started practicing walking by blocking the wall. Perhaps it's because of the good food, walking is not difficult, and I'll be walking soon. Grandma thinks it's because she helped me eat eggs this morning. This egg is not for free. Warm girl can even walk now. Grandma, now speaking is also agile, no longer just a single word bouncing out, but 2 words and 2 words bouncing out. Grandma said eggs are not for free, but upon careful consideration, it's really true. Since the age of 6 months, I have secretly taken eggs from the space and added meals when there was no one around. Such a big child can only eat eggs. Who wants most of the food in the space to be spicy? Children can't eat spicy food, they can only eat eggs. Chapter 5. Uncle San Sacrifices. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. De co lois ara trong quatrin lay text. Chapter 6. I plan to go out and explore. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. At this moment, the grandmother in the room couldn't help but burst into tears. We were all startled as we stood outside the door. We stayed like this for several days until Uncle San was buried, and our older brothers and sisters didn't dare to speak loudly at home. After handling the matter behind Uncle San, Grandma sat there and said to Dad. Second, find out the clothes that third used to wear. Go and customize a coffin, and then go back to the ancestral tomb to erect a tomb for third. Put it next to your father, otherwise he will also be worried. Okay, there's one more thing, the old lady needs to discuss with you too. Mom, what do you say? The old lady plans to adopt one of your children to your eldest brother and third brother. But mother, there are only 3 sons in the family. How can we adopt them to our eldest brother and third brother? Cheap mom doesn't want her son to become someone else's son, so she asks. Yeah. Mom, there are only 3 sons in the family now. Cheap dad didn't want his son to call his brother's father or uncle in the future, so he said, I didn't plan to adopt a boy for them. What does that mother mean? An adopted girl. Yes. But Xiaoxia is also sensible now, won't it be too good? Xiaochun is too young, I'm afraid when the time comes, said Cheap's mother. I actually know what she thinks. The older sister is 7 years old and can help with the family's work now. Another thing is that last time my father told her that my grandmother plans to no longer take care of her children, so she wants to leave her older sister to take care of her children. Among all the children, she never considered her own daughter. Grandma also knows what Qin Yang is thinking. She just thinks that Xia can help her with things now, so she doesn't want to let go. I don't even think about living in the same courtyard, and then I just sign my child's household registration under the name of the eldest and third child. Isn't it still like calling them parents? Really, just say. Since you don't want to adopt Miss Xia, then you can stay by your side and take good care of her. As for Spring Girl, she is really too young. She has to be taken care of by my mother when she adopts. Why doesn't she do it? Then let's adopt Miss Nguyen and give her to the third son. That big brother. Your elder brother left early, let's forget it. In the future, there will be a warm girl to burn some paper money for the eldest and third brothers during festivals and holidays. Okay, I'll listen to my mother. Since that's the case, take advantage of today's rest and let's move Nguyen Maiden's household registration to the third person's name. He just left, so why don't he have a problem? Okay, I'll go now and take my household registration book to handle this matter. In this way, my household registration was placed under the name of my third uncle, and now my cheap parents will become my second father and second mother. However, calling her Erda doesn't sound good. Usually, she still calls her Kda, which is allowed by her grandmother. However, it's cheaper to call her Nyang from now on. I don't feel much about cheap parents, and I haven't grown up in their house since I was young. Even if she lives in the same courtyard every day, cheap mom has no feelings for her daughter. As for cheap dad, he only cares about his own son and rarely pays attention to his two daughters. However, he is kind to Xiaochun, who has just been born. When he is in a good mood, he doesn't hug or tease him. As for the elder sister, she orders to do some work. Since I was adopted under the name of my third father, he doesn't ask much about me, especially since he never arranges for me to take care of the two little ones, which is really good. A few days later, two comrades from the People's Liberation Army who came a few days ago made another trip. A comrade said, "Auntie, this time we're here because you always give us pensions." Coincidentally, there are only myself, my grandmother, and two children who cannot speak at home. My second brother has already gone out to play, while the rest are either working or going to school. After listening to Uncle of the People's Liberation Army say some other things, I heard. This is a third-class military merit medal and martyr's certificate issued to Li Changxi by the organization. We have learned that a few days ago, you kept asking about it for Comrade Li Shi, and specially adopted the child in front of you to him. After understanding the situation, the organization also issued a martyr's orphan and only child certificate for this child. This child can receive a monthly subsidy of 10 yuan and related receipts until the child reaches the age of 18. And the total amount of this pension is 500 yuan, please take it, thank you, comrade. No need to thank you, please accept our apologies and accept our changes. So the three Fathers' pension came to the house. Grandma took advantage of the absence of anyone at home and secretly took out her household registration book and newly obtained documents, telling herself. Do you know that you're watching your younger siblings at home? Grandma who knows, Shaun Wan will take good care of them. You don't have to think about it. Grandma, this is taking some things and money to the bank. Although there isn't much money, this 500 yuan is really not a small amount for now. And this year, the second set of RMB has just been implemented. The old currency used to be 10,000 yuan, which is equivalent to 1 yuan now. This is still a huge amount. It's not safe to store it at home, it's better to keep it in the bank instead. Until dinner at night, I finally determined what my grandmother was going out to do, exactly as I had imagined. I heard my grandmother say, "Today, I sent a pension to my family, saying it's for my mother and a warm girl." The cheap mom was surprised to ask I saw cheap dad secretly tugging at cheap mom's clothes under the table and saying, "Mother, this money is for you. Just take it and don't have to tell your son." After seeing the movements of the two of them, Grandma said. The old lady is holding it, but she still needs to make things clear. What do you mean? A pension of 100 yuan was given above, and the old lady plans to keep this money for the warm girl, so that it can be used as a dowry when she gets married in the future. Mother, how can this be done? Why not? After warming up the girl, she will have to burn paper money for Lao San. There's nothing wrong with giving her money. Okay then. Just listen to your mother. As for the monthly subsidy, it's not much, only 5 yuan, which is enough for the old lady and the warm girl to use. She can also save some money, and the rest of the money is planned to be given to her for future school use. Okay, just follow my mother's arrangement. I really didn't expect my grandmother to compress the pension and subsidy so much, without telling my dad and them the actual amount. What does this mean? Or is it that my grandmother is guarding against cheap old mothers, and most of her heart is in her mother's heart for cheap old breasts, while the rest is in her son's? My daughter is nothing to her. Now let's take a look at cheap dad's face without any expression. But the expression on cheap mom's face was rich, first surprised, then angry, and finally ironclad. But there's no other way, who would let this money be the third father's pension? Isn't it her son's? So if it doesn't reach her hands and she doesn't say anything, it's not something she can say. So, no matter how grandma arranges, she can only listen. Besides, she wants to arrange this money, but what is she doing? Not to mention anything else, so far, the couple still have to pay home every month. I don't know what my grandmother thinks, but since the implementation of grain vouchers, the corresponding vouchers have gradually come down. The life of ordinary people is not enough just to have money without tickets, and not enough to have tickets without money. In addition, the children at home are all older and the living expenses are also high. This is not because my grandmother asked me to pay for living expenses from the beginning. Moreover, it is not very humane. Adults pay 3 yuan per month, children pay 20 cents in the first 2 months from birth, 3 cents in 6 months, 4 cents per month after the age of 1, 1 cent per year before the age of 5, 2 cents per year between the ages of 5 and 10, and 5 cents per year after the age of 10. Everyone at home has to pay, and the accounts are checked once a month. If there is any remaining, it will be used for the next month. If there is no remaining, it will be deducted from the next month. Cheap parents have nothing to say, who makes grandma a skilled family manager. There is a surplus every month, although not much. How can there be some left in a month? It's indeed right to think about grandma's arrangement. After all, in this era, everyone is the master of splitting one part into two. Another thing is that no matter how much it costs, everyone knows that there won't be any conflicts over it. Besides these, does cheap dad have to give his grandmother retirement money every month? My grandmother said that this was given by my grandfather when he was still alive before my father got married, fearing that my child would not be filial after he left. She also told my grandmother that we must get the house deed and give it to her before she dies, so as not to let my grandmother suffer. How can I feel that my grandfather, whom I have never seen before, really loves my grandmother and has prepared everything for her? On March 16, 56, which was my 5th birthday, I finished eating the fried eggs prepared by my grandmother and said to her, "I want to go out and play." "Why? Aren't you not fond of going out?" "Who said I don't love going out? Wasn't I young back then? Now that I've grown up, I can go out and play." "Okay. But you can't go far, you can't talk to people you don't know, you know. There are quite a few flower shoots outside." "Don't worry, Grandma, I know." "Then go ahead, it can be considered as a time to go out and play. If you choose to go out at this time, your grandmother won't follow you. Even when you're older, she can rest assured to go out and play. And my grandmother doesn't want to stop me from going out, but she really hopes to go out often and find friends to play with." Several children in the family were raised by cheap mothers who didn't want to be close to them, and they didn't want their older brothers, sisters, siblings to call them their own sisters or cousins, but rather their own cousins. Because of this, I didn't have any playmates at home, but I used to think I was young and didn't go out with my grandmother. After all, my grandmother had a lot of work to do, so I was always good wherever I went. For this reason, cheap dad sometimes says a few words, but cheap mom never listens and never says anything anymore. Going out today can be said to be my first time going out alone. I wasn't in a hurry to find any pigeon market, but instead looked up at the house number, which read 66, Qinghe Middle Street. Okay. The truth is too easy to remember. Is there no way? No matter where you go, it's better to remember your own house number first, otherwise what if you really encounter a flower? It's not like decades later, every household will have surveillance cameras on their streets and alleys. Even if surveillance cameras are installed, they won't work, right? Isn't it still common for human traffickers to go from stealing children to openly robbing them? After going out for a few days, I thoroughly understood the entire town. This town can be said to be one of the industrial areas in the northern suburbs of Beijing, with factories and schools, Qinghe Middle School, Primary School, Grinding Wool Factory, Qinghe Woolen Factory, Fan Factory, and Water Heating Factory. I really didn't expect there to be so many factories in this small town. No wonder it's so lively every day when my dad commutes to and from work. Although I don't go out much, I can still hear the noise at home. After a few days, I generally know about this town, which is still some distance from the city center, about 20 kilometers away. At present, this small body is enough. Then let's not go for now. Let's wait until we have the chance in the future. You can't just give up your life just to sell things in the space. But in recent years, when I came here, I couldn't even put the eggs in the space. What should I do? Roughly estimated, there are now over 10,000 eggs, although they do not occupy a cubic meter, the space warehouse and kitchen are not very large. Anyway, it's better to sell a little. Otherwise, I really wouldn't be able to accept it. The most crucial thing is that we haven't fully relied on receipts to buy things yet. If we have some money in our hands, what we have in our space, and how much we can buy from this era, maybe we can use it in the future. Another thing is that I only have 5 cents in my hand from birth to now, which was given by my grandmother during the Chinese New Year. No matter when, having money is the only way to have confidence. Otherwise, if something really happens, even a penny can defeat a hero. This is not a lie. Chapter 7. Separation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Do whatever you say, but this town is not big and so close to the countryside. There are also many people selling eggs, and the most important thing is that this town is close to the countryside. Some families also raise chickens in their own yards, so they don't need to sell eggs to eat. That is to say, this egg can only be sold to those who work in the factory, but that is not a problem. Because there are many factories in the town, especially the newly built factories in the past 2 years, with tube-shaped buildings built next to them, there are fewer people raising chickens there. You can go there to sell them. But what if someone recognizes me then? This is also a problem. Although I don't go out very much, I can't resist my grandmother always chatting with me at the door. We need to come up with a solution after we go home. By the way, remember that there are some clothes and cosmetics to try in the space. So, I secretly rummaged in the space and thought it was pretty good. No one would recognize me. I took advantage of my grandmother's lack of attention and secretly took a basket from home and went out. Although the town is not big, there are big gatherings every few days. However, now you have to go to a designated grain store to buy grain, and money alone is not enough. You also need a grain receipt. However, now only grain needs food vouchers, and some other things are still not needed. Therefore, eggs do not need vouchers now. So I thought I could take this opportunity to sell a little bit. Anyway, it's really good to have the money in hand. In the past 2 years, we have added 2 children to our family. Grandma usually doesn't have time to come out, and our own yard is not too small. There are also some vegetables planted inside, so there is no need to spend money on this. I secretly entered the space without anyone to tidy up, then came out with a basket and slowly headed towards the big market. I found an unoccupied stall on the market, and while others were not paying attention, I unconsciously placed 50 eggs in the basket. Finally, I brought the cloth from the basket and let out the eggs. I originally planned to carry 50 eggs directly out of the space, but I was afraid of people coming and going in this big episode. What if it gets damaged? Let's just forget it. Even if you are strong, you cannot guarantee that others will not touch the basket in your hand. Therefore, to be careful, you should find a place to put the eggs in the basket, which is why you just left. To be honest, I haven't seen anyone ask for a while, and I thought to myself that no one came to buy it. At this moment, an old lady tiptoed over and asked, "Little girl, how do you sell these eggs?" "Grandma," my mother said, "one for every penny. What about your adults? Why are you the only one selling eggs here?" "My family consists only of myself and my mother. We live in a nearby village, and my father sacrificed himself last year, so my mother and I were separated separately. Last year, my mother raised a few chickens. She laid eggs at the beginning of spring this year. She is usually reluctant to eat and sells them. Recently, the field has been busy, so my mother hasn't come over. There's really no other way, so I have to come out." "How did you get here? It's not close from the village to the town, is it?" "I came by taking Grandpa Wang's ox cart from the village." "Just have someone accompany you. How many eggs do you have here?" Mom said, "There are a total of 50 eggs in the basket." "Then let's have 30 eggs. But Grandma has to pick them out herself. Grandma's daughter-in-law just gave birth to a big grandson, and the eggs laid by the chickens at home are not enough to eat. Grandma, you can choose whatever you want. I guarantee there's no problem, everything is fresh." "That's good then." As he spoke, he picked out 30 eggs and said, "This is 30 cents. Take it and don't lose it." "Poor thing, at a young age, you don't have a father." People say that children from poor families have long been the masters of the family. It's really true. The old saying goes, you won't bully anyone. Although eggs are only sold for a penny now, not everyone is willing to share the money to buy them. Basically, every household will raise 1 or 2 chickens, but they can only raise chickens in recent years. Soon, it will not be enough for urban residents to raise chickens, which is said to affect others' rest. I earned 30 cents in this way, and after about half an hour, the remaining 20 eggs were also sold. I never expected eggs to sell so well, not to mention anything else. Although the town I am in may seem like this, it has several factories. Anyway, there is still a willingness to spend money on eggs. But when you have nothing to do, go to the tube tower and see if you can sell the eggs. If possible, but you can sell more. A basket of eggs earns 50 cents, which can be considered a huge sum in this era where every penny comes with a bag of apples. Not to mention anything else, let's just talk about Cheap Dad. Although he works in a factory, his monthly salary is just over 40 yuan. This is still after the new policy adjustment just came down this year. My father is now a second-level worker and his monthly salary is 41.5 yuan. As for Cheap Mom, she is just an ordinary workshop worker, but she is still a regular worker, earning 27.5 yuan per month. So the 50 cents in my hand are quite a bit, and besides, I earned it myself. So almost every major episode came once, until this year when I saw that my own chickens were not laying eggs, I stopped selling the last batch of eggs. Why don't you stop selling? You're stupid. As a 5.6-year-old child, you're selling eggs in the winter. Isn't this asking for trouble? Apart from selling eggs at the big market, we also sell them at the Guanzi building, and there are more eggs sold there than at the market. When I can't sleep at night, I secretly settle accounts there. This year, I sold a total of 56 eggs at the market, each time 50, which is 2,800 eggs. I can earn 50 cents, which is 28 yuan, each time. I sold 168 eggs in the tube tower, and each time I also sold 50, which is 8,400 eggs, at the same price. I earned 84 yuan in the tube tower. I only earned a cheap 4-month salary from my mother, Sai. It's still too little, but with this 112 yuan, it can be considered a huge sum in my own hands now. But it's okay, eggs can also be sold next year. But now we need to think of other ways. What are the selling points? By the way, isn't there a bunch of apples in the space? I can sell this, but I don't know what price I can offer. Now it can be said that apples are in the season of release. No matter how much money they cost, they should still be sold. Otherwise, what if they are placed in the space? Even if I keep it for myself to eat, I can't finish it. Just don't know if the apples in the space are the same as the apples outside. Fortunately, when I first bought seedlings, I bought seedlings. Otherwise, there was really no place to put them in the space. Thinking of this, I decided to explore the next market and see if it was suitable for selling apples. If it was not suitable, I would make another plan. Just as I was about to sleep, I heard Grandma calling Dad out there. Is there something I don't know about? And then I don't sleep, so I quickly get up and lean against the window to listen carefully to what's happening outside. Second, come out for your mother. What's wrong? It seems like Grandma is angry when she hears the sound. Immediately after, I heard, Mom, come here right now. Before long, I heard Cheap Dad say, Mom, what do you want to do with your son? There's nothing wrong, I just wanted to tell you that both of you are taking a day off tomorrow, and by the way, I'll invite your uncle and a few uncles to come home. Mother, why invite uncle and the others? Tomorrow, the old lady will split up. Mother, why do you want to split up so well? Don't you know? Then go ask your wife. It's not a mother, she's just talking nonsense when her mind is hot. Don't take it seriously. I really don't know, I just know that I'm going to split up tomorrow. I heard a thud, like the sound of Cheap Dad kneeling down, and then I heard Dad say, Mom, it's my son's fault. As long as I don't divide the family, I can do whatever I want. The old lady doesn't want to split up, but your wife can't tolerate your mother and me. Since that's the case, why should I still rely on you as a son? Your mother has hands and feet, and how can she live well? Mother, I didn't mean that. Listen to me. The cheap old mother hiding inside knows she can't hide, so she quickly says it over and over again and runs out to kneel in front of her grandmother. Do you know in your heart? Mom, I really don't have any. Are you still here and not admitting it? Is it interesting to argue elsewhere? Do you really think I'm an old fool like this? Mother.in.law. Mom, I'm not denying it, I'm not arguing, I really didn't say I can't tolerate Mom. You didn't say that, but that's what you mean. Mom really doesn't have any. Why do you say that now? The old lady in the family only has the second son and is taking care of her. Mother.in.law. Isn't the money in her hands the second son? The old lady hasn't died yet. You only care about the money in the old lady's hand. Do you know how much pension the third wife has in her hands? I heard that after the second son of the Sun family sacrificed himself in the 2 alleys ahead, they gave him 200 yuan. Why do you care about the money that the old woman's son exchanged for with his life? Mom, I didn't. At that time, I was just rushing to speak, and that's right. I really didn't have a brain at that time. Mom, don't you know who I am? Yeah. Mom, the child's mother really doesn't mean that, is she? Alright, what kind of hasty words she said without going through her brain. It's because of this, that's what she really wants to say in her heart. That's really going through her brain, and I'm afraid it's not just about sharing the money in my mother's hands. I'm afraid I don't even know how my mother died. Cheap Dad said something about the 2 people at night. It was like this. It's all my brothers and sisters. Is it necessary to distinguish them so clearly? Besides, now that we are the only one in the house, why bother making such a scene? Isn't this the adoption of Miss Nguyen, whether it's in her household registration or family tree, that she's not part of our family anymore? But after all, she was born from your belly, so you are so ruthless. It's not that I'm a cruel mother, it's that she has never called me mother. Since she hasn't called me mother, then I'm not her mother. Let's just pretend that I haven't given birth to her. You said she never called you mother, then why don't you think about what you did to her? No matter how I treat her, it's her mother. This is an unchangeable fact, but take a look at how she does it. Not to mention that when there was no adoption before, she didn't even call her mother, but now that she's all adopted, what kind of second mother is she calling me when she calls her father? You don't know how I felt when I heard about this second wife. She was always saying I'm a second wife. Aren't you the second room in your family? I'm the second one. What's wrong with us being the second room? What I mean is the second wife who the old master married into, not the ranking in this family. If you think so, I have no choice. Chapter 8. Criticism Conference. You are listening at novelfull.audio. You also talked about how one girl did it. Why don't you think about how you, a mother, treat your daughter? Among the 3 girls, you are the one who treats Chun better. Even so, isn't our mother doing the rest of the work? Shouldn't there be a girl named Xia to lend a hand on a regular basis? Do you think your days today will be so easy? When did you wash diapers for these children at home? Have you washed clothes? Not to mention anything else, even the clothes and shoes of the 3 girls are made by our mother. What about you? Do you think you have 3 daughters? You don't have it. You always feel in your heart that these girls at home are always someone else's, so you never take them to heartily Changha. You don't have to say anything about me. If you agree with my mother to adopt that stinky girl and not let her be the daughter of the second wife, it's because you think she can live with the monthly allowance and pension from the third wife. Although it may not reach your hands like this, no matter what, she is also your daughter. Even if she cannot reach your hands, isn't it still your daughter using her? But what about him? Every month, I eat delicious food and drink spicy food with money. When do I think of you, my father, and my mother? Never. You said I didn't take her to heart. With just her peace of mind, why not have a dog? At least the puppy knows how to wag its tail when it's full. What about her? Never before. You are still here thinking about being unfair to her. Why not be unfair to me and not to yourself? By the way, do you know how much pension my mother has for the 3rd child? Are you not sure? I'm not sure either. Only our mother is clear. I heard that after the second son of the Sun family sacrificed himself in the 2 alleys ahead, they gave him 200 yuan. How could our 3rd child possibly be fewer than others? You actually care about the 3rd child's pension. Are you still human? Are you a person? Don't you know? Besides, you're the only son in the family now, and it's all our family's business to take care of our mother. In law. Why can't we know how much money they've given our mother? Isn't the money in my mother. In law's hands all ours sooner or later? Why can't we ask now? Still saying it's to give that dead girl. Why should she give so much money for a girl movie? She didn't starve to death. It's good if she freezes to death. What dowry should I give her? I married her mother, and she deserves a dowry. Don't forget that we still have 3 sons now. Money is needed everywhere, not to mention giving them back to Mary. Not everyone has to spend money. I don't believe you don't care about the money in your mother. In law's hand. Okay, you can do it. I want to see what you and I can do. Mom, that's what we said earlier, Mom. Old lady, whether it's true or not, this family will be divided tomorrow. Mom, please don't split up. If you split up with your son, what would you let others say about your son? Mom, please. Seeing Grandma standing there silently, one can tell that she is an elderly person. She really can't bear to be criticized for her father. After all, there is only 1 son left among her 3 sons in the family. How can we say that we should separate families? But when I didn't know what to do, I heard my grandmother say home can be divided, but tomorrow, you still have to go and invite your uncle and a few of your uncles and uncles. Besides that, you also need to send your wife back to her parents' house and ask her in-laws how they raised their daughter. Is the mother. In law above still alive? Just thinking about the money in my mother. In law's hand. Why does the little uncle care about the money he exchanged for his life? Who taught her? Tell her in-laws that if they don't tell my mother 1, 2, or 3 things, this matter won't be over. If it's a big deal, we'll get divorced. The old lady won't believe it anymore, and Wu Huifang won't be able to live without her in the Li family. Mother, I won't divorce. I worked hard for the Li family to have children without any merit. Why should I divorce? Mother, I was wrong, please don't let the head of the family divorce me. I won't speak recklessly anymore, please. Alright, buddy, you can handle it yourself. If you don't take care of what Mom just said tomorrow, then this house will be divided. Alright, it's getting late, Mom will go back to the house first. Mother, at this moment, my mother also realized that my grandmother didn't seem to be lying. That's right, Grandma hasn't passed away yet. Just thinking about the money in Grandma's hand, isn't this a seizure of power? What's more, I didn't expect that my cheap mother would look at me that way. It seems that I was too kind to her before. Don't let me call her mother in the future. Even the name Er Nyang has disappeared. Let's treat her as heir in the future. The next morning, the old man didn't even have a meal, so he first sent the cheap old mother back to his mother's house, and then went to invite a few elders. But what I never expected was that my grandmother followed out shortly after my dad left. After waiting for more than half an hour, I saw my grandmother bringing 2 female comrades over. It was a coincidence, and one of them I still knew was Comrade Kai, who brought comrades from the People's Liberation Army over last year. Then 6 days later, I heard my grandmother say there. Could you please bring the 2 comrades home? The old lady had no choice but to expose her family reputation, but she never thought of her second wife, who usually doesn't pay much attention to the daughters she gave birth to. But I never expected her to miss the old lady's notebook and the money that the third child at home exchanged for with his life. Then I saw my grandmother crying there. What kind of situation is this? What kind of trouble is this? Why is it a bit unclear? The 2 comrades watched their grandmother crying there and quickly approached to persuade her. In less than half an hour, the father invited several elders of the Li family to their home. As Grandma wiped away her tears and was about to say something, she heard the door open with a bang, and then she heard. In-laws, what do you mean by motherly? Why did you send back the daughter we married from the Wu family? My daughter is raising children and supporting your parents-in-law for the Li family. Why did she say you want your son-in-law to divorce her? What do you mean? Do you think our Wu family is afraid of you? Since my in-laws have also arrived, I can save the old lady a lot of trouble. Coincidentally, several elders of the Li family and comrades from the street office are also present. It's really a coincidence that all the neighbors are here, so let's talk about the matter in its entirety and let everyone evaluate and reason. Is it wrong for me, the old lady, to be the mother-in-law or for her to be the daughter-in-law? The old lady believes that since the Wu family's daughter married into the Li family, she has not taken on the heirs of a mother-in-law like other families. Her Aunt Li's words are correct. We, the old neighbors, can all testify to this. That's right, Aunt Li is really good in our area. Not to mention anything else, let's just say that his second wife in the Li family is not careful in taking care of her every time she gives birth and has a full moon, no matter when. Not to mention other places, there is no such mother-in-law or happy daughter-in-law in Qinghe town like us. Who said it's not? The old lady doesn't talk about what she did before, nor does she want to waste her breath. Just talk about what happened last night. After repeating what I heard from my second wife last night, I continued. The old lady really didn't expect that she hadn't died yet. The second family is concerned not only about the coffin of the old lady, but also about the compensation for their uncle who died on the battlefield. The old lady really didn't expect that she had been unlucky for 8 lifetimes and had married her second wife like this. What? No, don't cry, Auntie Li. Has this Wu family daughter eaten the gall of ambition and dared to think about your retirement money, and what kind of compensation is there? What is the situation with this damn Wu family daughter? That's right, no daughter-in-law dares to worry about her parents' pension money. That's right. You don't know about this, do you? I heard that the youngest son of the Wu family is getting married, and I heard that he wants a lot of dowry. Several sons in the family have been causing quite a stir. Haven't we reached an agreement yet? What do you mean by that? But what does it have to do with the Wu family, the daughter-in-law who married into the Li family? Isn't that her brother? What's wrong with my younger brother? Can you kiss a man who sleeps in the room even more? Can you kiss your own child even more? Are you joking? Let me tell you. She just wants to keep the money in her own hands and subsidize her mother when the time comes. I didn't see how much she brought back to her mother's house during the Chinese New Year holiday this year. That's right, I've seen this several times. So this is it. What are you fooling around there? What? We didn't lie either. Aunt Wu, don't deny it. Everyone knows about this. That's right, we can all testify. I see you're just eating salted carrots and worrying lightly. That's better than your family. Do you believe it or not? If you dare to say one more word, I'll tear your mouth apart. Why don't you give it a try then? Do you think I'm afraid of what you're doing, and don't you take a look at how the comrades in the street office are doing now? Look at how capable you are. Besides this matter, there is one more thing that everyone needs to evaluate and reason for. You can tell him, Aunt Li. We all know that you need to be a good person. That's right, Aunt Li's character is beyond words in our area. That's it, it's not a big deal either, it's just that the old lady is suffering in her heart. As she spoke, she explained everything about her family, not to mention anything else, just how Wu Huifang treated her children since she married and gave birth to several children. Do I just say that? The elderly person in our place doesn't like to take care of their grandchildren. It turns out she doesn't allow them. Instead of treating the daughter she gave birth to as a human, she would throw it to her mother-in-law besides breastfeeding. If there were a bad mother-in-law on the table, would this little girl still be alive? My mother came here, this is going to cause lives. Who said it's not? Tiger poison doesn't eat seeds. That's her own, just ignore it and don't ask. No wonder. Since she got married to us, I have always seen his Aunt Li with a warm girl. The few kids in Li Urge's family are not very close to her. Old lady, I've been wondering why. So the problem is here. Chapter 9. Separate stoves but not separate houses. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Who said it's not? No wonder I was wondering when my younger siblings said they wanted to adopt Miss Nguyen to my nephew Changshi. These adopted children are all male children, how come they have to be female children when they come to their younger siblings? At that time, I also asked, my younger siblings didn't say anything. Do you still have to think about it? It must be his Aunt Li who thinks that no matter what, it's all her own business. It's embarrassing to say it out loud. She didn't say it out loud. Aunt Lu is right in saying that. But that's not right. A few days ago, I heard Li's second sister-in-law say how good Chun is and how could she do this. Is there any misunderstanding in between? The second daughter is indeed good to Chunya. Among the three daughters, she only cares about Chunya, but her pain is only on the surface, especially when the child is not crying or making a fuss. She will hug the child and never interfere with anything else. There are a few children in the family. When they were young, there was an old lady watching, and when the children could leave, there were older ones playing with them. Especially with these two little ones, they even threw the children to Xia Yadu or Huai Kid to take care of. As for the children's clothes, not to mention these two children, they have never washed a single piece of clothing since Yang was born, let alone diapers. Well, this matter is just for the sake of production, let's just leave the rest unattended. Who said it's not? The old lady invited several elders from the clan and comrades from the street office to come over today. It was originally intended to divide the family, but for the sake of the second son's face, this family can remain separate. But the old lady must give an explanation for the hardships and exhaustion she has endured. Since she became pregnant with a young boy, the old lady can be said to serve her every day, just like serving an old Buddha. Isn't it just for the sake of her second son? For the sake of the child? For this family? But what will happen in the end? She longed for my old lady to die, thinking about the little coffin in her hand, and thinking about the compensation my son, who died on the battlefield, exchanged for his life. Not to mention the small amount of coffin in her hand, let's just talk about the third party's pension. At that time, the old woman realized that the third party had not left a son and a half daughters, and saw that she didn't like to see the warm girl, so she adopted the child to the third party. Speaking of which, it's also good for our current government to not only provide pensions, but also receive a few yuan of subsidies every month. At the beginning, it was explicitly stated that the pension would be given to the warm girl as a dowry, and the subsidy would be enough for the old lady to support her own warm girl. Not to mention that the third child is gone, it's just that they live in the same yard and have no separate families. Isn't it still the children of the second and second families? But how did the second family do it? Obviously, they are brothers and sisters, so they don't have to let several children add the word tang in front of them. He even said that the warm girl didn't call her mother, but she didn't think about what she was doing and how to make the child shout. In the end, she still wronged the child. Big guy may not know, there's one thing I've never used to say outside. After giving birth to Miss Xia, she called her a daughter. Not only did she dislike her from the bottom of her heart, but she also secretly pinched the child's body until it turned purple and blue. If it weren't for the old lady changing the diaper for the child, she wouldn't have noticed. After Nguyen girl was born, she treated her child the same way. To be honest, when the old lady saw the child being pinched by her like that, she wanted to beat her up. But after all, she gave birth to the Li family and raised children. Can't we do this? Can't we? Big guy doesn't even hear this. I know what to say, even cheap mom doesn't know what to do. Not to mention the other Wu family members. Uncle Li Wenjun, who has the highest seniority, asked, from the Chanha family, do you think what my mother-in-law just said is true? Me. Since you can't say anything, your mother-in-law's words are true. I didn't expect you to be so damn poisonous. What do you want to do with Bingrui's family? Speak up and let everyone listen. Sigh. Uncle, I had always thought that we were all part of the same family, so there was no need to worry so much, but the big guy also saw that if the old lady didn't care, she wouldn't care about things she shouldn't have. Since that's the case, let's separate. Mom, haven't we all agreed not to separate families? Dad quickly interjected and asked, feeling anxious. It means there's no division of households. But it doesn't mean there's no division of stoves. Since she was pregnant with young kid until now, the whole family has been done by her mother alone, both inside and outside. However, she has never intervened once. Not grateful for my efforts as a mother-in-law, but also concerned about the old lady's coffin, and about you taking the money from your deceased brother. Second, my mother gave the third's pension to Nwanmai, isn't it just for you too? Warm girl, how can you call the third father, but can the third father hear you? Besides, even if I put this child's account under the third person's name, doesn't this child still call you, Dad, on a regular basis, mother, son? My mother knows it's not easy for you to have a few children, so the old lady is raising a warm girl for you, but your wife is not satisfied, and you are not satisfied either. Since that's the case, why does my mother have to work tirelessly to serve your family's food, drink, and salad? His Aunt is right. If this is my daughter-in-law's daughter-in-law, it's just a request. Let's take a break. Aunt Wang, we can't say, rest, now, we should say, divorce. That's right, it's just a divorce. Let me talk. Does the Chanha family feel that there are several brothers in their mother's family, but they just feel that their mother-in-law is easy to bully? That's really it. Bingrui's family, how do you plan to divide them? Upon hearing this, Uncle Li Wenjun couldn't bear to listen anymore and asked Uncle, when the head of this house was still here, he said that whoever took care of the old lady and sent her away, this house belongs to him. This big guy knows it. The old lady has 3 sons, and now only the second one is left. He will definitely be the one who knocked over. As for who will be serving and caring for the elderly, the old lady is watching over now. Sisters, Changhe is not such a person. He is indeed not such a person. The old lady who raised her own son knows it well, and as for the others, it's hard to say. As soon as everyone hears this sentence, they know who they are talking about. It's not Li Changhe's wife Wu Huifang, right? There are also a few children who are raised by her side, and they don't usually kiss their own grandmother. Uncle, there are also 2 comrades and all the neighbors. Today, please be a witness. From now on, the old lady will take Nguanmai with her. Nguanmai is also old, and we cannot always live in the same room as the old lady. Let her move into the room on the east side and stay until we get married. Do you think so? This is okay. What else? The old lady still lives in this room now. This is what it should be. The kitchen and firewood room are reserved for my old lady to use. There are 3 upside-down rooms, so let my second wife rebuild a new stove there and let them handle the rest. As for the simplicity of grain, since we all have a grain budget now, let's stick to it. The few chickens raised at home are not divided, they are all raised by the old lady, and the rest are divided equally according to the population. Sure, what about the food and expenses for elderly care? The money for retirement was already fixed when the head of the family was still there. It used to be in old currency, but when converted, it would be 3 yuan per month for the elderly woman's retirement. As for the food for elderly care, let it be according to other households. After all, the second family has many children and it's not easy. Sure, River Boy, you've heard it too. Your mother is considering everything for you. Look at what you're doing. Uncle, I'll listen to my mother. What about the family's ledger? At this point, Wu Huifang also broke the jar and was not afraid of everyone laughing, so she asked, ledger? What ledger? That's right, it's not a wealthy family, and we still need to keep accounts. That's it. If you don't mention that the old lady forgot about the ledger, since you mentioned it, then take it out and let everyone take a look. As he spoke, he turned around and went into the house, taking out several account books and a small wooden box. I still have a good ledger. How could this be possible? What's there to remember about it? That's it. Is all the household ledger here? Old Lady Mengchen, an elder from her maternal family, used to be a maid from a wealthy family and learned some words by following the young lady of the master's family. When the old lady was young, she taught me to read and recognize words hand in hand, and could keep an account or something. Uncle, you are a knowledgeable person, and the 2 comrades in the street office are also knowledgeable people. Please help me calculate. Over the years, starting from my second son, I have been working in the factory and every penny I have given to my family, including how it was used and how much is left, is clearly remembered and well documented. Uncle and 2 comrades, who knew the characters standing in the crowd, all flipped through their accounts. Finally, I heard 2 comrades from the street office say, Aunt Lee's account is not wrong. It's really not wrong, said the uncle at this moment. I really didn't expect that Aunt Lee could still read and recognize characters. It's also said that the word Aunt Lee is really not bad. Is that right? That's right. If you don't take a look, just this word, not to mention anything else, can also be used in our area. That means the Wu family can't even ask for an extra penny from his Aunt Lee. That's right, look at it. Aunt Lee has recorded it very carefully in her account book. It's as small as a needle, even a handful of vegetables. Is there a record on it? How could the Wu family ask for an extra penny? If the Wu family really dares, I dare to confront them one by one with those accounts. That's right, don't they just think there are fewer men in Aunt Lee's family? That's why they bully Aunt Lee like that. They're really nice. There are fewer men in my aunt's family, but there are quite a few men in our Lee family. We're afraid of him, so if we have the ability, we can compete. That's right, BB. Whether it's your skills or those account books, our Lee family is not afraid. That's right, what are you afraid of? What's there to be afraid of? I think they should be afraid of the Wu family. Chapter 10. This is no different from dividing families. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Coincidentally, not only are there many children at home, but they have also grown older, so the family's expenses have increased in the past 2 years. Now there isn't much money left in the wooden box, only 108.3 yuan in total. You can count it. I never expected my grandmother to remember so clearly. Aunt Lee is right, just like what she remembers in the ledger. Comrade Kai said it's really not wrong, Aunt Lee. You really don't remember this account. Every expense is clearly recorded, and what was bought when and where, but not at all. Let me take a look, show me. If you don't believe it, just read it. It's true, Aunt Lee's account can be said to be no worse than the accountant in the factory. Yeah. Indeed. River Kid. Are you talking about this money? Uncle, let's leave this money to my mother. It won't be easy for my mother to take care of a warm girl in the future, so let's give it all to her. No need, I dare not take it, I'm afraid I won't know what someone will say about my mother.in.law when the time comes. It's really possible that this daughter.in.law from the Changhe family looks good on a regular basis. I never expected this kind of person. Aunt Lee is still right about this money. It's better not to do it. Don't let's all leave then. It's said that Aunt Lee embezzled some money because of her old age. Not to mention the people of the Wu family, there is a real possibility that Aunt Lee's reputation will be tarnished outside. So, Bingrui's family, what do you plan to do with this money? Although Miss Nguyen said she passed on to the third child, she is still the daughter of the second child no matter what. Besides, this child has never been liked by her biological mother since childhood. Let's give her this money. The old lady plans to send this child to school in 2 years, and then pay the tuition for this child. I heard that the current tuition fee for a child is 2.5 yuan per semester, which can provide for her to enter 2nd grade. Also, the old lady usually has nothing to do and can burn the matchbox to earn some pocket money. In addition, with the government's subsidies, how can she afford to finish elementary school? As for whether we will still go to school in the future, let's talk about it later. Cut, what kind of person? Saying it's for that dead girl, isn't it still in my own hand? Anyone would say that. Mother is right. Just a few words less, don't you know it's not time for us to talk now? You still find it embarrassing, right? This method is good, River Boy. Your mother is also right. Anyway, Nguyen Maiden is also your daughter. Although he was adopted by Shi Xiaozi, no matter what, he still has your blood on him. Even if he is adopted, the difference is not significant. Aren't they all your own daughters? Hello, raise her so that she won't be worse than raising a son. Uncle's words are not wrong. Although this girl has said that she has been adopted, she is not someone else, but her own biological brother. Most importantly, her brother has long disappeared, which is a matter of status. Isn't it because she has been raised by her since childhood? There's really no difference between not adopting and going out. I didn't say much about that, and even what uncle just said was right, Changhe. You have to listen to our uncle. You haven't seen the old Xie family on the front street. What's the situation now? Who said it's not? This old Xie family has a total of 5 sons, and because they don't like their second son, they adopted him from a young age. Now it's better. Not long ago, he collapsed, and none of the 4 sons who were raised in front of him were willing to step in. It wasn't because his adopted son had no choice but to come and serve him. You don't know. I saw it with my own eyes a few days ago, and now that Lao Xie is so regretful, where he constantly saying he's not right with their second son. I also know about this. Li Changhe thought about the situation of the old Xie family and realized that his sons had been abandoned by his mother. Law. Looking at the 3 sons in front of me again, aren't they all raised by their mother and similar to the 4 sons of the Lao Xie family? After thinking about this, what if one day in the future I will also be like Lao Xie? Also, Warm Girl grew up by her mother's side, and no matter what the future holds, she will never forget her father. As the big guy said, she should treat this child better in the future. Quickly say, "Uncle, don't worry, kid knows what to do." The situation of the old Xie family is really like this. It's all because their second son feels sorry for him and thinks that his son is a treasure. When he grows up and marries them, he won't even recognize his parents when he needs someone. That's good, since you figured it out in your mind, Chongping. Where are you? Uncle. Write whatever the old man says. Okay, uncle, no problem. On December 17, 1956, on the 6th day of the 11th month in the Bingtian year of the lunar calendar, the document stating that Li Bingrui's family and Li Changhe's family were to separate their stoves but not their families. Yi Bingrui's family lives in the original house, and they live in the east house with the Warm Girl from the Changshi family. The kitchen and firewood room are now used by both of them. Except for the chicken returning to Bingrui's family, the iron pot and a set of utensils, the rest are divided by population. The 3 grains are based on the grain cost, with Bingrui's family and Nuanmai being separated separately, and the rest belonging to Li Changhe's family. Si Li Changhe gives his mother a monthly pension of 3 yuan for those over 50 years old, 5 yuan for those over 60 years old, and 10 kilograms of grain per month. As for the Dragon Boat Festival, Mid-Autumn Festival, and Spring Festival, they are calculated separately. Li Changhe took care of and paid for the 5 patients who fell ill and were hospitalized at Bingrui's house until they passed away. Otherwise, the house under Li Bingrui's name would not belong to Li Changhe and her children. Don't say, listening to the old uncle reciting one by one over there, I really feel like something, but I don't know if this document works or not. Uncle, it's written. That's to transcribe a few copies, sign them. Bingrui's family will take 1 copy, Changhe will take 1 copy, the old man I will keep 1 copy, and then give the street office comrades another copy. Finally, I will write 1 copy and hand it over to the Public Security Bureau. When the time comes, we will separate the grain books, otherwise we won't be able to explain clearly except for the fork. No way. If the government keeps records, it will be a matter of certainty. It's not just for fun, but for real. Okay, uncle. Bingrui's family, lead the comrades in the street office to share the things in the house. Yes, uncle. Hey River Kid. It's not that uncle said you. You can't just focus on working in the factory and have to personally raise your children. Look at the current situation of the Lao Xie family. You can't just leave all your children to women, you know. Changhe, uncle is right. You need to put your heart into it. After all, since the children are still young now, how can you break them up? Uncle, cousin, I know now. Another thing, you also know that it's not easy for her over the years. Your father left early, and the world is chaotic. It's not easy for her to raise you all as a woman. This is getting you married again and taking care of your family for so many years. Your actions as a couple are really hurting your mother's heart. Otherwise, she wouldn't have proposed dividing the family, but isn't she still because you didn't divide it? Just dividing the stove, she doesn't mean she doesn't want to take care of you, she just doesn't want to get mixed up with your family. If she were really ruthless in dividing the family, would she still consider you uncle? The kid understands. Just understand that it's not easy for your mother, there's no mother who doesn't love her son. Uncle is right. Who said that a mother doesn't care about her son? If Aunt Li didn't care about her son, would she have served his family for so many years? Isn't it because I was bullied like this? That's right, this is my daughter. Law. I'll just let my son divorce her. If we don't, pack up and get out of here. Still tidying up, everything in the house was earned by the old lady and the old man. There's no way they deserve it. We should just let them leave the house clean. It's reasonable for us to go anywhere. That's right. Since the Wu family's in-laws are no longer here, I'll just rely on my seniority to say a few words. You said, Mr. Wu crouched there smoking and sweating. Since your old Wu family doesn't have the money to marry a wife, why do you have to marry off your daughter's family? The mother and son of Chang, who are still causing trouble, almost split up. Don't even say that you didn't do this. The big guy standing here is not a fool. He cares about his own family's coffin and the money his son exchanged for his life. You have good intentions and are not afraid that our ancestors will climb out of the grave and settle accounts with you in the middle of the night. The old man will leave his words here today. Listen to me, River Kid. From now on, whether it's your wife's concern for the little coffin in your mother's hand or the money of your deceased brother. Even if it's the money you two earn in the factory, as long as I or the big guy hears about your wife secretly taking over her family, your family will get rid of the old man. Our Li family doesn't have a son like you. After all, your wife is the daughter of the old Wu family, and it is also appropriate to show filial piety to her parents. However, you cannot empty your family to marry your own brothers or use it for other purposes. River Boy, don't forget that you still have 3 sons to take care of. If you don't mention the warm girl, let's talk about the rest. You also have 2 daughters to take care of, and you currently have 5 children to take care of. Not to mention those 2 little ones, it's just these 3. I've heard that you sent Yang and Xia to study, and now that Huai is also old, money is needed. Can't you save more money for your own children? That's your own blood and close relative's uncle, I know. Don't worry. I won't stop my daughter-in-law from showing filial piety to my parents-in-law. However, while everyone is here, I will also tell you that in the future, my daughter-in-law's salary will be given to whoever she likes, and my own salary will be enough to support my children and my mother. Now that Xiaoxia has grown up, she can learn to cook. Please ask my mother to take her and teach her how to cook. Also, the food she receives every month should be kept with my mother. In the future, let Xiaoxia go to her mother's place to eat as much as she eats every day.